No, ini bara.
Okay.
Welcome.
Basically, lots of lala me along is cool, man, that I can really relax.
What the madam?
Yeah, that's
what the madam?
Yeah.
Let them do somebody.
That's right.
Grand villa.
That's fine.
Slowly. Yes. No.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people are basically me alone because they relax. So it's okay, so that I can at least
Nina from Nisewa, Nidia, Nena Grand Villa is the best guest house in the Gambia. Which is Act number 3 of 2019, passed on the 26th day of September 2019 and assented to by the President on the 29th of October 2019. Honorable members, in pursuant to Section 152, subsection 1 of the 1997 Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia, the Honorable Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs shall today table the 2020 draft estimates of revenue and expenditure of the Republic of the Gambia, 1st of January to 31st of December. I'm sorry, just a second. 2020, that's right. Both days inclusive for the consideration and approval of this August Assembly during this ordinary session. Therefore, I urge all honorable members to kindly take note of the relevant provisions of the Constitution and the revised standing orders of the Assembly during this session. And I thank you all for your kind attention. Clerk, can we proceed? Thank you.
Correction and approval of records of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Friday, 4th October 2019.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, The record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Friday, the 4th of October, 2019 is before us for correction and approval. Can any honorable member please move that the said record of votes and proceedings be considered and approved? Honorable members will observe that we have already started using the, the revised standing orders when we talk of correction. We try to make sure that we capture the actual wordings of the new standing orders coming into effect today, and that is why we have used the word correction. Thank you. Yes, honorable member for Combo East. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move that the corrections and approval of records of vote and proceedings of the National Assembly sittings of Friday, 4th October 2019 be considered and approved.
Thank you. The seconder. Yes, Nyamina East. No, sorry, West. Nyamina West, yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the record of votes is okay. Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Friday, the 4th of October 2019 be adopted. Any corrections or observations, amendments from honorable members? And we can start with page 1. I believe it has already been circulated. So on page 1, any corrections? Sorry. We're satisfied with page 1? Yes, Lower Salum.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My name indicated in the absence. Absence is when I was I was present on that day.
Is it?
That is the same.
Your name is listed.
That's page 2, yes.
Page, it's on page 3, in fact. When we come to page 3, we'll do the correction there. Page 1, yes, Tumana. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I was absent on that day, but I'm captured as present here.
Corrected, thank you. Any more on page 1? We are all satisfied with page 1. Thank you. Page 2. All the names are captured? Okay, thank you. Page 3, we come to the correction of honorable member for Lower Salem.
Speaker.
It will be corrected.
Speaker.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, honorable member for Nyani, page 3.
No, we go back to page 2. Yes, my name. It should be ALH, still number 22. 22, page 2. Yes, number 22. Yes, it has been spelled wrongly. Yes, again.
Sorry. Please, table office, please take note of the correct spellings of names. Thank you. Page 3. We're all satisfied with page 3. Thank you. We go to 4. Page 4. Yes, Woolly East.
Yes, where you have question put and agreed to. Where it says, be resolved, sorry. The top motion, under the motion. Be resolved that this August Assembly do stand. They remove the S. And then when you go to question put and agreed to, I think we should just continue with the August Assembly. We maintain that.
Yeah, noted. Any more on page 4? No? Larikunda Sabiji? Okay. Thank you. Page 5.
I say I will have an observation based on our sitting arrangement, but I will raise that one up later.
We were on page 5. We are dealing with the corrections now. Yeah. On page 5, page 6, anything on page 6? Page 7? Anything on 7? No? Okay. The last page is we're all satisfied. Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Friday, the 4th of October 2019, be approved with amendments. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. So the ayes have it. Thank you. Please, can we proceed? We will take your observations later. Thank you. Clerk.
Motion. Laying of the draft 2020 estimates of revenue and expenditure of the Republic of the Gambia, 1st January to 31st December 2020, both dates inclusive, by the Honorable Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs.
Sorry, we need to.
Yeah, you read this.
No. He tables it, yes. Microphone, yes, thank you.
It's on, okay. Sorry. Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I would like to submit for consideration and approval by the National Assembly the estimate and revenue to the current and development expenditure for the fiscal year 2020. Honorable Speaker, the legal requirements for the presentation of the government budget to the National Assembly are detailed out in the 1997 Constitution and the Public Finance Act of 2014. Section 152(1) of the 1997 Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia requires His Excellency the President of the Republic to instruct the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs to prepare and submit to the National Assembly at least 30 days before the end of each financial year the estimate of revenue and expenditure of the Gambia for the following year. Furthermore, Section 21, subsection 1 of the Public Finance Act equally requires the Minister to lay before the National Assembly the appropriation documents at least 30 days before the end of the financial year. Section 24 of this Act specifies the content of the appropriation bill documents. The relevant documents are now incorporated in the documents on the estimate being presented to this National Assembly. Additionally, Section 152, subsection 1A of the Constitution requires the National Assembly within a maximum period of 14 days after receiving the estimate of revenue, recurrent and development expenditure to consider and approve the estimate. In so doing, Public Finance Act provides under Section 27 of the National Assembly to temporarily or permanently a small core of technical staff to assist in gathering information, making research and analysis on issues pertinent to its deliberation and resolutions on the budget submitted to it by the Minister. Honorable Speaker, the Gambian economy is anticipated to grow by 4% in 2019 compared to an actual real growth of 6.5% in 2018. The decline in growth is as a result of anticipated setbacks in both agriculture and services sector. Growth in these two sectors is projected at negative 2.6 and 1.5% in 2019 compared to 0.9% and 9.9% in 2018 for agriculture and services respectively. The contraction is on account of the delayed rains and impact of the collapse of Thomas Cook, the major carrier of tourists to the Gambia. Gross domestic product at current prices is estimated at 86.6 billion Gambian dollars in 2019 compared to 78.6 billion Gambian dollars in 2018, representing a growth of 10.1%. In real terms, GDP is anticipated to grow by 4% in 2019 compared to an actual outturn of 6.5% in 2018. The agriculture sector is anticipated to experience contraction in 2019 due primarily on poor performance from two important subsectors, crops and livestock, both of which are anticipated to decline to negative 6.2 and negative 10% in 2019 compared to 6.6% and negative 5.6% last year. Forestry and fisheries, on the other hand, are expected to grow by 1.1% and 5.9% respectively in 2019. The projected growth in the fisheries sector is attributed to recent FDI inflows, and that is geared towards a new fish factory and the commencement of a new fishing agreement between the European Union and the government of the Gambia. The industry sector is anticipated to record the strongest growth in 2019 with a projected growth of 20.3% compared to 2.5% in 2018. The drivers of growth in these sectors are construction, electricity, and water. These subsectors are anticipated to grow by 31.7%, 12.6%, and 9.5% respectively. The expansion is attributed to growth in both private and public construction, increased power generation and water production capacity due to the commissioning of the new generator sets by NAWEC. On the service sector, growth is expected to be mild due to the impact of the collapse of Thomas Cook, slashing the growth outlook of hotels and restaurants from 18.8% in 2018 to 6.2% in 2019. Whilst communication, finance, insurance, and real estate are anticipated to register a growth of 13.4%, 12.6%, and 6.9% respectively. In terms of sector contributions to GDP, services continue to dominate with a 55% share contribution, followed by industry and agriculture contributing 20% and 18% respectively. This suggests a change in share contribution from the previous years where agriculture ranked second with 20% and industry 15%. The late start of this year's cropping season, which was characterized by intermittent dry spells, has resulted to a drop in the actual area cultivated compared to what was planned for this cropping season as per the mid-season assessment report. The report highlighted that areas cultivated for upland and lowland rice dropped by 41% and 51% respectively. 59% for groundnuts, 49% for coarse grain crops, and 38% for early millet. Honorable Speaker, the index NCPI edged up slightly from 6.6% in September 2018 to 7.6% in September 2019, following a one-off sharp increase in postal services in April, that effect of high demand during the month of Ramadan, May, and the recent increase in fuel prices, which, when compared to the same period in 2018, inflation remained 1 percentage point higher. Food inflation, which is the main driver of headline inflation, stood at 6.7% in July 2019, unchanged from the previous months, but higher than 6.4% a year ago. Major drivers of food inflation during the period were bread, cereal, meat, fish, and vegetables. Non-food inflation, on the other hand, decelerated slightly to 8.4% in July 2019 from 8.5% in June 2019, but higher than the 7% recorded in July 2018. Key drivers of the non-food inflation in July 2019 were clothing and footwear, housing, fuel and lighting, hotels, restaurants, furniture, and alcohol beverages. The outlook of price pressures had started to ease, and underlying inflation remains broadly subdued. This is expected to continue in the medium term, premised on the continued stability of the exchange rate, well-anchored inflation expectation, and moderate global food prices. Honorable Speaker, the Central Bank of the Gambia pursued an accommodative monetary policy stance against the backdrop of stable prices, relative improvement of external sector, with the objective of promoting private sector credit expansion to spur economic growth. The monetary policy rate, MPR, was maintained at 12.5% in August 2019 with the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, MPC. Money supply grew by 16% as at end September 2019, driven mainly by increases in both net foreign assets and net domestic assets of the monetary authorities, increased from $9 billion Gambian dollars as at end September 2018 to $13.9 billion Gambian dollars in the same period of 2019. The net domestic assets increased from $20.1 billion Gambian dollars to $25.2 billion Gambian dollars over the period under review. Credit to the private sector continued to build up the momentum from last year, increasing by 25.4% over the period. Reserve money increased by 18.6% to 13 billion Gambian dollars in September 2019. Both components of reserve money, currency in circulation, and reserve of deposit money banks increased over the period by 16% and 22% respectively. Reflecting improved market conditions and stability in the economy, the dollar's exchange rate, measured against currencies, has remained relatively stable between September 2018 and September 2019. The dollar appreciated by 2.6% and 1.9% against the pound sterling and the euro respectively, and depreciated against the US dollars and CFA by 2.5% and 0.7% over the period under review. Honorable Speaker, preliminary balance of payment estimates for the first half of 2019 indicated an overall balance of payment deficit of $12 million US dollars, compared to a surplus of $13.94 million US dollars in the corresponding period of 2018, mainly due to the deterioration of the financial account. The current account deficit narrowed to $25.8 million US dollars, that's 1.5% of GDP, in the first half of 2019, compared to a deficit of $26.7 million US dollars, that's 1.7% of GDP, in the corresponding year of 2018. The improvement in the current account balance is attributed to the increase in foreign inflows related to the support from the development partners, diaspora remittance, and tourism. The goods account balance is estimated at a deficit of $194.60 million, that's 11% of our GDP, in the first 6 months of 2019, compared to a deficit of $150 million, that's 9.3% of GDP in the corresponding period 2018. The widening of the deficit in the goods account was due to the increase in imports, which reflect rising economic activities. Import rose to $277.7 million, or by 29.8% in the first half of 2019. That's from $214 million in the same year, in the same period of 2018. Exports also increased by 35.6% to $74.4 million during the period under review. The service account balance, on the other hand, registered a surplus of $59.7 million in the first 6 months of 2019, higher than a surplus of $40.5 million a year ago, explained largely by the increase in tourist arrivals. Capital accounts improved to a surplus of $7.54 million from a surplus of $4.63 million in the previous year, mainly on account of official flows. However, financial account balance worsened to a deficit of $30.72 million in the first half of 2019, compared to a deficit of $8.12 million in the corresponding period a year ago, due to increase in currency and deposits by 35.2%. Gross official reserve as at end August 2019 stood at $210.12 million, that's 5.3 months of import cover. The increase was mainly on account of accumulation of reserves during the period, largely in the form of budget support, complemented by reserves accumulation efforts by this bank, by the central bank. Honorable Speaker, on the fiscal front, budget execution has improved over the past years as compared to previous years. The Ministry of Finance has implemented strong budgetary execution guidelines for 2019, which has helped in minimizing budgetary reallocation, augmentation, and in turn, improve the ministry's compliance to spend within their envelope. As at end 2018, net domestic borrowing was less than 3.4 billion Gambian dollars, which is approximately 4% of nominal GDP. However, non-realization of our NDP target of 1%, that's net domestic borrowing, of 1% of GDP, was primarily as a result of non-disbursement of budget support from our development partners. Although a total of 3.4 billion Gambian dollars was factored in as budget support, only the EU component of 25 million euros was received, and critically, this was received in 2019 instead of 2018. For 2019, the projected budget support from the European Union and the World Bank, which comprises the bulk of our estimated support for this year, have not materialized as at end September. In addition, we are also in advanced negotiation with the French government for the potential budget support to the tune of 2 million euros. We nevertheless still expect the EU 22 million euros support before the end of the year. Meanwhile, the World Bank budget support is unlikely to materialize due to slippages emanating from non-realization of our certain development policy operations targets. Honorable Speaker, preliminary estimates as at end September for 2019 shows an increase of 29% on domestic revenue from 8.8 billion Gambian dollars excluding grants, compared to $6.8 billion in 2018, that's January to September. Domestic revenue mobilization in 2019 has also outperformed our the January-September target of $8.4 billion by 6%. On the expenditure front, total expenditure, including externally financed capital expenditure and net lending, has reached around 14.1 billion Gambian dollars as at end September 2019, which is 3.6% more than the 2018 figure of 13.6 billion Gambian dollars. With the exception of capital expenditure, all various expenditure components, personal emoluments, other current debt service subventions, registered increments relative to last year. Personal emoluments, the highest increment at 31%, which is as a result of 50% basic salary increment across the civil service. Net domestic borrowing is expected to be around 2.5% of GDP by end December 2019, even with the non-disbursement of IMAC budget support from our development partners. This will thereby demonstrate our commitment to streamline government expenditure and embark on a fiscal consolidation measures, whilst ascertaining scarce resources are strategically located towards areas that would have the most positive impact on economic growth and the welfare of our citizens. Honorable Speaker, the budget, in essence, is the most important mechanism used by government to direct social and economic life of our people in line with the attainment of our development objectives. The 2020 budget incorporates new social initiatives, and key among these are: one, the setting up of a national insurance scheme that will cover civil servants and vulnerable groups. Two, the 2020 budget also features the innovative development model referred to as Emergency Community Development Programs. The ECDP will be implemented through local councils, and it aims to improve access to basic social services for rural populations through the establishment of socio-economic infrastructure and to promote the involvement of local actors in the economic and social development of their localities. Three, the 2020 budget also features the Banjul Rehabilitation Project, which is designed to address the deficiency of the drainage, sewage, and road infrastructure within our capital city. Four, a social safety net project designed to avail cash transfers to the most vulnerable is also factored. The above are just a few examples of the social dimensions we intend to channel the 2020 budget. Honorable Speaker, total revenue and grants in 2020 is projected at 24.47 billion Gambian dollars, which represent a reduction of 3% over 2019 figure of 25.2 billion Gambian dollars. This reduction is mainly attributed to project grants and budget support. Project grants are estimated to decrease from 9.9 billion in 2019 to 8.1 billion in 2018, whilst we are also factoring budget support to the tune of 2.7 billion Gambian dollars in 2020 compared to 3.4 billion Gambian dollars in 2019. This is expected to come from our development partners, mainly the European Union and the World Bank. Honorable Speaker, total expenditure and net lending is projected to increase from 28.825 billion Gambian dollars in 2019 to 30.048 billion Gambian dollars in 2020, representing an increase of 4%. The bulk of the increment is attributed to debt interest payments. Personal emolument expenditures are projected to increase from 4.2 billion Gambian dollars in 2019 to $4.49 billion in 2020, mainly as a result of yearly promotions and additional recruitment of teachers and health workers. Debt interest payments is projected to consume about 40% of government tax revenue in 2020 compared to 26% in 2019, moving from 2.702 billion Gambian dollars in 2019 to 4.648 billion Gambian dollars in 2020. The increment is as a result of mounting debt stocks, domestic debts in particular, coupled with the envisaged rollover of some of the domestic debts. Other current non-interest expenditure is estimated to decline from 20.064 billion Gambian dollars in 2019 to 18.206 billion Gambian dollars in 2020, reflecting our intention to embark on a fiscal consolidation process. Capital expenditure is estimated to increase from 1.880 billion Gambian dollars in 2019 to 2.752 billion Gambian dollars in 2020, mainly as a result of various new and ongoing projects, in particular the OIC and the Banjul Rehabilitation Project. In terms of financing the deficit, Honorable Speaker, the domestic borrowing is projected to increase to $3.9 billion in 2020, which represents 4% of our GDP compared to 1.236 billion Gambian dollars in 2019. Staying within the borrowing ceilings and working towards reducing it is premised mainly on strict adherence to budget ceiling by all budget entities as well as implementation of the structural reform. In addition, government is also expecting to conclude negotiations on debt restructuring with our development partners, and an estimate of 2 billion Gambian dollars could be potentially freed up in 2020 as a result of this debt deferral. This will give the necessary fiscal space to address the debt sustainability issues, as well as more financing of the national budget to priority national development program spending, that's the NDP. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, I remain convinced that this budget will be a useful tool in our drive to achieve and sustain macroeconomic stability and the government's primary objective of reducing poverty and improving basic service delivery for all. If we all recommit to strict fiscal discipline, I therefore submit this estimate of revenues, recurrent and development expenditure for the fiscal year 2020 for the consideration and approval by the National Assembly. Thank you.
Before I call on the honorable member to second it, may I just request that we have copies of the statement so that it will be distributed to honorable members. Thank you. Thank you. Any seconder? Yes, honorable member for Upper Salum. Thank you. Caution is just a seconder simpliciter so that we don't have to go into details as of now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and then thank you, Honorable Minister, for abiding by the constitutional requirement. I rise to second the motion, Honorable Speaker, and equally I would like to ask if the Honorable Minister can provide us with the budget execution report of 2019. That would actually help us to be able to critically look at this draft that you actually provided. And on that note, I want to thank you. I won't say anything today, so.
Well, I can assure you that I'll give you the floor when you come on Monday. Thank you very much. It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable Assembly do consider the draft 2020 estimates of revenue and expenditure of the government of the Gambia, 1st of January to 31st of December 2020, both days inclusive. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. So the ayes have it. Honorable members, the estimates of revenue and expenditure of the government is an important document. It seeks to set out the macroeconomic variables of the country in relation to revenue and expenditure of the government and the program it intends to execute to improve the conditions of living of the citizens for the year under review. The document therefore requires our thorough scrutiny and consideration. Please, honorable members, can we, sorry. Cognizant of this reality, the sitting will be adjourned to give us adequate time to review the document and for the consideration and debate proper on the draft 2020 estimates to begin on Monday, the 25th of November, 2019. But before putting the question, I want to announce for general information of honorable members that the 2020 pre-budget analysis retreat is scheduled for the period 19th to 22nd of November 2019 in Tendaba, LRR. Accordingly, departure for Tendaba is scheduled for today at 3 p.m. The Office of the Clerk has put in place adequate logistics in Tendaba for a successful retreat. Honorable members are kindly urged to attend this important retreat to enable us thoroughly scrutinize and digest this very important document. We are expecting resource persons to be with us throughout the session. And now I want to put the question, be it resolved that this August Assembly do stand adjourned till Monday, 25th of November, 2019. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. So the ayes have it. But before I adjourn the session, I think the Honorable, or you want to? No, it has, but let's adjourn. The Assembly now stands adjourned till Monday, the 25th of November, 2019 at 10 a.m. prompt. Thank you.
Abroad and want to build your dream home in the Gambia without risking your funds and family ties? Do you want a household name that is trustworthy and efficient? A name that will continue to give you updates on the project from the beginning to the very end with videos and pictures? If your answer is yes, then worry no more. Boss Construction and Asset Management is here for you. If you live outside the Gambia and want to build your dream home, then this is ideal for you. Just reach out to Boss Construction and let's start building the dream home into a reality. With Boss Construction, the difference is clear. We give you value for money. Some of our services includes the following: construction management, building equipment rentals, rent management, purchase and leasing, asset management, and many more. For more information, please contact 282-4945. Better still, send us an email, bossgambia@gmail.com, or you can also visit our website on www.bossgambia.com. Boss Construction, a name you can trust. Boss Construction and Asset Management, keeping families together.
Some ñoo ñëw ak yéen rek skincare plus nara jàkkaarloo ak yéen waxtaan ak yéen tuuti rek si suñu tube suñu baax emuñ rek ci ay diw waaye comme ni ngeen ko xamee rek dañoo yëngu ci ay tube te yënguwuñ nag si just any tube suñ tube bu nekk 5-star jesna la 5-star jesna mooy jesna bi gën a pire moom la ñoo tube palmaan bi gën a fort moom la ñoo liggéeyee ñun rek si tube dara du doy day des not only dañoo tube but bu la neexee ñu tuubal la ba pare nag ñawal la we're not all about skin we are skin care and the plus does come in so many different ways.
Can